But it's also about people's willingness and availability to attend. With that said, I think I saw a hand up that was wishing to help us with the confusion we have in our minds around the bill. So. So
thank you.
Let's hear him first, if you don't mind.
I want to say something. My sister she's not as fast as you do it.
So I've even recommended, I think it makes it easier for all of us. There are 2 microphones, so one could be on this side, one could be on that side, so it can be passed along easily. So that we don't have to move around. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I think with me, like you said, the first act refers to an authority and it gives its functions and its content. I think that's what is important.
Yes.
Sometimes if we don't take our time, legalities override content, which is, to me, that's the most important thing. We all know, like you said, the names of the crops that has been mentioning in there is maize, soya, the grains and the legumes.
Yes.
Once it is there,
yes,
to me, there are errors. We can't recommend that the names be made proper. But to me, if the functions and the core activities of it has been well defined, to me that's it. We are looking at content and not illegalities. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much. And by the way, just like he said, if you look at section 3 of the Act, which speaks about the functions of the authority, wherever grains is mentioned, legumes is also mentioned in the body of the Act. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I want to talk about the governing body. If you look at the 2D, they said 4 other members representing farming, business, financial, consumer, and any other interest whose representation on the board will assist its work and so on. This act was formed way back in 1970.
Yeah.
Those years, Ghana was very infant when we talk about technologies.
Yes.
We didn't even have the skills. So everything that was produced was mainly for export in its raw form.
Yes.
But now things have changed. We have the expatriates, we have the skills. People have come out from universities with skills to work. So it's about time we add value to our own raw materials to create wealth and jobs. So I think we should be biased about putting in our representation of processing to make it very important. Because I don't see any word about processing, but it's very, very important in this our age now.
Yes.
So we should really request that processing should be another members of the governing body.
Very well. And I think that goes to the crux of our conversation later in the program, because in the amendment that is being proposed now, there are some variations that the ministry is seeking to make even to the governing body. So in your group discussions, you look at whether that is sufficient or whether there has to be even further proposals to Parliament to amend that particular bit. So it's great that you have made that observation. I would recommend that you note it down so that in the course of the group conversation, fortunately, in the bill, there's been some proposals on how to reorganize the governing body. So we want to check whether the indications that you have given is already in there. If it is not, then these could be some of the recommendations that we can pass on when the engagements are held with the Parliament of Ghana. All right, with that being said, I think we can move straight to the presentation. Oh, there's another hand up. Okay, please let me take yours. Yes. Okay. Okay.
If so, if the president will elect the members of the board, don't you think that we give so much powers to the president?
Okay.
Don't you think we've given so much powers to the president? I think with the members of the board, they should be elected by the associations that
the association themselves to elect somebody to that board, either than the president himself electing somebody, wherever he's going to elect them, we don't know actually, but I suggest that the association should be.
Yes.
No.
So, and I'm happy that conversations have already begun towards the third part of the program lineup, as I explained. I've noted this down, but for the purposes of our time, if I'll crave your indulgence so that we do this very presentation, I think the third part will help us delve deeper into some of these issues, which are stated in there. And I will explain to you how the original act, and how the bill, which is seeking to amend it, is hoping to address this issue and any of the other issues that we have. So I'm happy that you have. This shows that you have taken real time to look at the documents that have been shared. You've made your notes, and it will make for a very interesting conversation when we get into that stage. So can we proceed? Okay, sir, please.
Oh, please, I think we appreciate the enthusiasm of our comrades. I mean, it's been wonderful. But we are appealing with you, let him continue so that the real work will start. And then we bring all these boiling points out. So please, let's allow him to set on the road for us. Sorry. Let us not drink the soup whilst the fufu has not yet been prepared.
Very well. Other than that, when the fufu is ready, we may have very limited soup. And when we create the hole in between the fufu, no, we cannot sang quite baby. and go away. All right. On that note, let's delve deep into the presentation. So what I'm seeking to do in this presentation is to give us an idea into the lawmaking process in Parliament. This is a generic presentation that we do at Parliamentary Network Africa as a way of helping stakeholders to understand the opportunities that exist for them to advocate on pieces of legislation that are before Parliament, to help them understand better understand the lawmaking process. Now, next slide. There are a few things that we like to state right from the very onset when it comes to the lawmaking process in Ghana. The first is that Ghana's legislative process can appear to be very complicated and complex. Just like any other legislative process in any other parliament, including the various parliaments that we work in at Parliamentary Network Africa. Lawmaking is a complex bit. And whenever we do these presentations, and we even have people who have graduated law school in the room, we get a lot of feedback on how this is not even entirely explained the way it is, so far as law school class is concerned. Because Parliament's processes are ever evolving. They require indications to how the lawmaking process in Ghana can be. And we'll share these materials with you for your edification and also for your the groups that you represent. So don't bother yourselves too much with. I know that because it's a big picture, the text can be a bit problematic for those of us who may not see smaller text from afar. But don't you worry, I will do well to break this down. So, as it stands in Ghana now, we can say that there are 14 stages in which through which a bill goes to become law. 14 stages. Some of these stages take place in Parliament, and some of these stages take place outside of Parliament. Let me emphasize also that these 14 stages are only the stages that starts when Parliament officially gets custody of a bill. So it means that the processes that leads up to preparing the bill, ministries organizing stakeholder engagement on the bill and what have you, is not even part of these 14 stages. So these are 14 stages from when it starts in Parliament. And I think it's important for us to bear that in mind. So for example, stage 1 is that the bill gets laid at the table of Parliament. What does this mean? It means that before the bill even gets laid, the mother ministry should have conceived that they want an act of Parliament passed in a particular area. They probably will call consultants to develop the draft. They will then send it to the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General's Department for the technical legislative drafting component of it. The Attorney General's office will try and fine-tune it and put it into lawmaking language. Okay, I understand that Mr. Aziz needed at the registration desk, so please. The Attorney General's office will draft it in legal language. It is possible that it will come back to the ministry for them to take a look at it. The ministry will now probably call some of the stakeholders that they think will be necessary for this, bounce it off them, ask for feedback. All these feedback they will try and incorporate together with the Attorney General's office. Then they take it to Cabinet. Cabinet refers it to a Cabinet subcommittee. The Cabinet subcommittee discusses it. They present a paper to the main Cabinet. Cabinet approves of it that, okay, we are good to go. Before the ministry now does stage 1, which is laying on the table of Parliament. At this stage, the bill is no longer the property of the President and the ministry and the executive arm of government. It has become the property of Parliament. And at that stage, only Parliament can make changes to it. In fact, Parliament has the right to change literally every word in the bill except for 2 things. The object of the bill, which is the intention behind the bill, because it is because of that intention that government brought it. So you cannot change the intention or the object of the bill. If you look at the object of the bill and you think that it is so problematic, the best that Parliament can do is to have the minister withdraw the bill for them to go and better it and bring it back. So the object of the bill cannot be changed. Even the title of the bill can be changed by Parliament when a bill is so presented, to Parliament. So long as changing the title does not affect the object of the bill. So at this stage, at stage 1, this is where Parliament now has seized custody of the bill. And that is where in legislative advocacy, when you now go shouting to the ministry and say, why is this law taking too long to pass? Why are you not passing the bill? They will tell you that it is now Parliament that is delaying it. And at that stage, yes, they will be right. If stage 1 has not happened and the bill is not passed, then it is not the fault of Parliament. So in the public domain and even at the media level, I hear a lot of people talk about the fact that Parliament has not passed a certain bill. Parliament has not passed a certain bill. However, that bill itself has not even come to the level of stage 1. And so it is not even yet a property of Parliament. It remains at the executive level. But this bill that we are discussing today, fortunately, has crossed stage 1, which is that the bill is officially laid in the House. What does this mean? It's just a procedural thing. on the day that the bill will be recorded as having become the property of Parliament, the table, you know, when Parliament sits and the Speaker is sitting at the top there, you find a few people in front of him. Usually, sometimes they wear gowns. Where they sit is known in parliamentary parlance as the table of Parliament. So every document that must be discussed must first be tabled before it can be discussed. And that is why one of the very important offices in Parliament is called the Table Office. That office, when you go there, it's not as if you go and see a certain unique table, but it's because that is a place where everything that must be discussed in Parliament must first be tabled for processing. So that is stage one. Stage one is only procedural. Then stage two is what we call the first reading of the bill. Sometimes when we are talking about bills, you hear first reading, second reading, third reading. Then it confuses us. What does all of these mean? The first reading of a bill is simply the stage where the bill is introduced by the minister responsible for the ministry that is sponsoring the bill, or in the case of a private member's legislation, the private member who is actually bringing the bill to Parliament and laid on the table of Parliament. So usually at the first reading stage of the bill, what we call the long title of the bill, which is the object of the bill, is read aloud to symbolize that this bill has now come before the Parliament of Ghana. In the case of the bill that we are considering, if you look at the document that was shared with us, you realize that the long title is an act to amend the Grains Development Authority Act 1970, Act 324, to provide for the regulations and the development of the grain subsector, promote private sector participation in the grain subsector, and to provide for related matters. So this is actually the intention behind the bill. So at this level, Parliament reads that, and that is why it's called the first reading. So the first reading is not that Parliament will read the entire document, but the clerks at table would read the long title of the bill just to symbolize what the intention behind the draft legislation is. Then we move to stage three. Stage one, stage two, and stage three all happens on the same day, usually, in Parliament. So stage one, it is laid. Stage two, the long title is read as part of the first reading. And stage three, Mr. Speaker will now refer the bill to an appropriate committee to study the bill and to report back to Parliament. In the case of this bill, it was referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs. Like I said, stage one, stage two, and stage three all happens within the same day, usually. And they are just procedural. Now, stage four is where now the committee to which the bill has been entrusted sits to look at the bill. And this may include public hearings, inviting stakeholders like you to come before the committee and to present memorandum on, various aspects of the bill where they think changes must occur and what have you. But the committee has the responsibility to do what we call a clause-by-clause consideration of the bill. What does that mean? It means that when you actually go into a committee sitting where they are considering a bill, it's a lot of work. Honorable member would have said to that. It's a lot of work that our MPs do. They take each clause of the bill. Clause 1, they'll look at it. What must change? What must not change? Is it okay? Okay, fine, this is good. Clause 2. So if it's this bill, fortunately, is a relatively small bill. There are some bills that can be hundreds of pages. They have to go through each clause, and to propose amendments to each clause as they deem fit. And like I said from the very beginning, Parliament can literally change the wording of a bill. The ministry can come and say that we want a governing body that is made up of 10 members. X, Y, and Z groups should provide a membership. Parliament can change and say, no, the governing body can only be 5, and it should be X, Y, and Z, or can be 20, and it should be X, Y, and Z. It is within the power of Parliament to make all of those amendments. And that is why at the lawmaking stage of bills, Parliament becomes the most important. In fact, constitutionally, it is Parliament that is close with the power to be able to make laws for the country. Once the committee is done with its work, it moves to stage 5, where the committee presents its report to to Parliament. So the committee will present a report. It will explain the documents that they consulted. It will explain the groups that they met. It will explain, and it will have an attachment which will show every single recommended amendment that the committee wants done so far as the bill is concerned, and then they will present it to plenary, because the committee is only a subcommittee of Parliament. They don't make the eventual law. It is the whole plenary that makes the eventual law. So they are coming to report back to plenary as the technical people to let them know that we have looked at it. These are the things that we think must change. So all of us now as colleagues should look at it together. And that is at the level of stage 5, where the committee lays at the table of Parliament the reports that they have. Then stage 6 is called the second reading stage of the bill. Here, there is a debate on the floor of Parliament, and the debate focuses on the principles of the bill alongside the committee's report. So that second reading stage, again, the reason it is called second reading is that the long title will be read again procedurally, for the second time, just as a procedural bit. But now, Parliament will delve into the memorandum of the bill. And the documents that we shared with you, there is a memorandum which explained the background, why the bill is being proposed, what defects exist in the current law that must be changed, and all of those kinds of things. Parliament will now debate it, and debate also the general principles around the reports that the committee has presented to Parliament. All of this stage, it is seized with Parliament. Once they do that, then stage 7 happens. Just as the committee went through the bill clause by clause, at stage 7, the entire 275 members of Parliament will now go through the bill clause by clause, taking a cue from the recommended amendments that the members of the committee have made. So there are times when the committee says, clause 1, we need to change it from X to Y. But there's another member of Parliament who is in there. He's not a member of the committee. He has the right, by our parliamentary processes and practices, to also propose an amendment to the same clause 1, different from what the committee is proposing. What it means is that in legislative advocacy, there is a stage when your focus should be on the parliamentary committee, yes. But there is also a stage where the focus must be on the entire parliamentary body, because sometimes our experience has shown that there are certain things that we won't change. We have tried to lobby the committees to include it in their report. Committees said that they will not do. So they present their report according to stage 5. But we know that stage 7 will come, and we can be able to push those amendments through other MPs who may want to play ball with us, so far as the proposed amendments that we are talking about is concerned. So stage 7, they go through the amendments clause by clause. They debate each and every one of the proposed amendments, and then Mr. Speaker will put the question. As many as are in favor of clause 1 standing as part of the bill, say aye. They'll say aye. Those against say no. They'll say no. The ayes have it. Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Then they go to clause 2. They talk. Mr. Speaker will put the question again. As many are up till they finish with all of the clauses within the bill. Once they are done with that, they go to stage 8, which is the third reading. Final stages of the bill. But before stage 8, there's something I like to call stage 7B. When they've gone through all of the processes, and before they get to third reading, which will be the level at which Parliament will now pass the bill, any member can come and say he's proposing a second consideration of specific aspects of the bill. So once the issue was discussed, he was probably not happy with a particular area. He has maybe superior information to convince the rest of Parliament that in this particular area, you still have to further change it. There is an opportunity for a second consideration. But second consideration must be specific to a specific area. We can't do second consideration for the entire bill again. That would be a waste of everybody's time. It must be specific to an area that has been identified as part of the second consideration stage. So that is important for us to take note of. Once we've crossed all of that, the new standing orders of Parliament allows the MPs to now see the status of the bill now with all the changes that they have done. Which will now show what the final print would eventually look like. Because whilst they were debating, the clerks at table are taking notes. They are looking at all the things that needs to be changed. So they have effected those changes. So they show the MPs to say that, okay, if you pass the bill, this is what it will look like. And then the third reading can take place, which is where, again, procedurally, the long title of the bill is read the third time, and Mr. Speaker will say that Grains Development Authority Amendments Bill is read the third time and passed. This is where the processes ends in the Chamber of Parliament at stage 8. Now, the responsibility lies on the Clerk of Parliament to transmit the bill from Parliament to His Excellency the President for his signature. Right? And of course, it is there are some bills that are in the news in recent times. The level that it has gotten to and the controversy is stage 9. Whether to bring it to the President or not to bring it to the President, that controversy, but that's not why we are here. But just to be able to provide you that understanding. So from stage 9, it goes to the President. At stage 10, and the President can do a few things. The President can say, okay, I brought you this Grains Development Authority bill in this form. You as Parliament, who have the power to make laws, have changed certain aspects. When I look at it with my ministers and my legal advisors, which is the Attorney General, I am okay with the changes that you have done. So no further issues. The President just signs it and the bill becomes a law, and then it becomes operational when it is gazetted. So that is the short route. Most of the bills that we have gotten in Ghana goes through that short route. When it comes, President looks at it, he says, okay, I'm okay, no problems, I sign it. But in recent times, we've realized that there are some bills also that can go through the long route. And what is the long route? The long route is that the President takes custody of the bill, he looks at it together with his ministers and says, Parliament, this is not what I wanted you people to do. The changes that you have done is too much. You have probably amended the bill beyond what we expected. Or His Excellency the President and his legal advisors identify specific legal issues with what Parliament has done. Then the law says that it can go through a few different stages. If the President refuses to assent the bill, he will notify the Speaker within 7 days after the bill is presented to him for assent. And then he will, within 14 days after his refusal, state in a memorandum to the Speaker any specific provisions of the bill which is to be reconsidered by Parliament, including recommendations of amendments. So within 7 days, he must tell the Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this thing that you have brought to me, I can't sign. And then within 14 days, he must tell the Speaker the reasons why he cannot sign to the bill, right, as part of our lawmaking process. Alternatively, he shall refer the bill to the Council of State and accordingly notify the Speaker. So he will tell the Speaker that, Mr. Speaker, I cannot sign, but I've taken it to the Council of State for advice. And so please, let's wait on the Council of State to be able to advise. This request should include the President's statement or amendment which he proposes to the bill. That is a request to the Council of State. And the Council of State shall consider the bill and report to the President at the appropriate time with or without amendment. So the Council of State will also look at it if the President chooses that route, and then we'll say, okay, Mr. President, we looked at it, we are advising you that go ahead and sign, or please, we are okay with what you want to take back to Parliament, yali yali yali. Either of these two processes that happens, okay, I see your hand up. I was hoping that I'll finish and then we can ask the questions. With the Council of State, okay, that's a very good question. Now, within our Constitution, it provides for similar timelines as given to His Excellency the President for the referral back to Parliament. Right? It provides similar timelines as given to. So Mr. President is either going so moto on his own, accord to get to Parliament within the timeline stated, or going through the Council of State within the same time frame to be able to get back to Parliament on the proposed amendments. Now, either of these routes that takes place, then it goes to stage 12, which is that they are now going back to Parliament with the recommendations on what must change from the final draft that Parliament brought. To say that, okay, Parliament, clause 1, you said the governing body should be 10. We disagree with you because we don't have money in the consolidated fund to be able to do 10. We are appealing to you, make it 7. 7 there. And these are the reasons why we are saying 7. These are the 3 areas that we can cut and all of that. So this is where they send it for reconsideration of the bill by Parliament. Here, Parliament shall accordingly reconsider the bill, taking into account the comments made by the President or the Council of State. A bill so considered shall be passed by Parliament by a resolution supported by the vote of not less than 2/3 of all the members of Parliament, and the President shall assent to it within 30 days. So once that's come to Parliament, for Parliament to change what they originally said based on the recommendations by the President or Council of State, it must be based on 2/3 majority of Parliament. If Parliament decides that no, we are sticking to our grounds, the way we brought it, it be so no, we want the bill to go to, and they take it back to His Excellency the President. The law says the President has 30 days. That one, whether he likes it or not, he must sign and probably go back to the courts for the courts to, nullify the bill if it is unconstitutional, or nullify sections of the bill or portions of the bill if it's unconstitutional. So this explanation shows that this can be complicated, and I'm sure that while I was going through, you are trying to relate it to other public interest bills that have come up in recent times. But I want us to focus entirely on this bill. Let me make the caveat that I will refuse the temptation to answer questions relating to other bills aside this one. So I think that one, we can agree on that, so that we don't veer off the real reasons why we are here. But these are the stages that a bill goes through to become law, so far as Ghana's parliamentary practice and procedures are concerned and our constitution is concerned. Yes. I think the other microphone is around your table, isn't it? Yes. Okay. I mean, if the the 2/3 is not achieved, then it means that Parliament is disagreeing with the President's recommendation. And the President, by the constitutional provision, has within 30 days to sign it, if Parliament gets it back to him or her, depending on who is the President at the time. Well, then it will become a constitutional issue, and then we have to go to court and blah, 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 because the Constitution says you must sign within 30 days. So why are you not signing? Those are areas we've not gotten to, right, yet. Fortunately, we are seeing some issues within the space. All of these are things that have not happened in the past. So in the past, we didn't even have answers to some of these questions. Fortunately, the courts are able to do their part of the work. What it means is that going forward into the future, we'll have clear answers to these things, which were ambiguous areas, of the law in the past. But the courts will have the opportunity to pronounce on them. Yes.
Hello. So, stage 9.
Yes.
Outlines with the exception of stage 9.
Video down somewhere so that we don't block. Okay, good.
With the exception of stage 9, how long must it stay at stage 9 before it gets to the President?
How long must it stay? Right about the fact that there are no timelines specified at almost any of the stages except the stages that relates to the President. In fact, constitutionally, there is a timeline for stage 4, but it gets flouted every day. The Constitution says that a bill shall not remain with the parliamentary committee for more than 3 months. Almost all parliamentary committees flout that, and nobody has actually cracked the whip with Parliament. Sometimes it's because it's practically impossible to deal with these processes within 3 months. So Parliament usually closes its eye on it. The level of stage 9, which is transmitting of the bill to His Excellency the President, it's also dependent on when Parliament finishes with the cleaning up. Note that there are changes. If the bill is a very bulky bill, sometimes it can take weeks to amend and to provide all of the changes, to cross-check, to reread, to make sure that it is clear and all of that. And now Parliament to send it to the Assembly Press, which is the government printers, for them to print it on vellum paper, which is the official copy that the President will sign. That can take some time, but there are no clear... Parliament tries to do it as quickly as possible.
Okay, I think that is the reason why we are where we are as a country. Yeah, because if we can't determine timeline for that stage, then they will keep sabotaging activities that needs to run quickly, right? So, well, that's Parliament. They can determine timelines for so many things, but if they cannot determine timeline for that very state, then we have a big issue in the country. That's what I see.
That's an interesting observation, and yeah, I mean it's one that it's meant to be debated. In fact, in the past, this has never become an issue, within the timelines, except for this current, situation, for very obvious reasons. And the good thing about democracy development, constitutional development, is that when some of these things happens, it allows us now to bring definiteness to some of these things, so that in the future we can all be very clear on how these things can go. Yes, I think I saw another hand up. Yes, please.
What happens? We are talking about the future.
Yes.
In case we are unsuccessful this time to get it passed, does this have to be relayed?
Okay.
And then if the next parliament, will it be is a government that sends business to parliament?
Correct.
What if it's not their business? Or we will now follow up and ensure that it comes on the order paper for discussion?
Very well. So yes, I'll take the final one at this stage. Then I'll address them, and then we'll move to the next presentation, after which we'll have questions that you can now add the next presentation to my presentation to be able to make for.
I think my this thing is, let's be careful because of timing. Yes. I think we are now doing more legalities than the content where we are here. So please, can we cut it short and get to the content why we are here? Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, to answer your question, and that's be the final point I wanted to come to before we conclude. And maybe we move to the next slide. Can we move to the next slide for me too? So the next slide is just to make it a more simplified version of the earlier one. And just to use that to also explain where the Greens Development Authority bill is. So stage one, laying at the table. In 2022, the bill was laid at the table, right, of Parliament. The first reading took place. It was referred to the Committee on Agric at stage 3. The committee is yet to get back to Parliament for stage 4. So the bill is still with the Committee of Parliament. Questions on why and why that is happening may be answered in the next presentation. So that let's hold our guns so far as that is concerned. What it means is that even if the committee is able to finish with the work and present it, the rest of the stages must continue until stage 8 before the current Parliament's tenure ends. If the Parliament of Ghana's tenure, the 8th Parliament, ends, and we've not finished with stage 8, in the 9th Parliament, we have to start from stage 1. So, a bill that is not completed at the expiration of a particular Parliament will have to restart. So the new government must, first of all, also show interest in the bill in the first place, and be able to. So the conversations that we are having here, or will be having here later, will be towards achieving two things. How are we strategizing to still influence Parliament to make sure that something gets done before but how are we also making sure that the content of our proposed changes, even if Parliament does not pass it now, can still be part of, integrated already in the new one that gets presented to the new Parliament, so that we don't have to come around and be wondering why the same old things are being done the way they are being done. On that note, let me thank you all very, very much for your kind consideration, and I'm sure that this helps to explain the stages, the lawmaking process, where we are on things, and where we need to get to on things. It is my expectation that during the period where we are considering the bill, we would all take time to, we'll think about these processes as I've explained them, and then we'll think about these processes as I've explained them, and then we would make sure that we are factoring these processes into the considerations that we do on the bill. At this stage, I would like to introduce the presenter for the next phase of our conversation. While I was doing my presentation, I saw him walk in. He's the Member of Parliament for the Manso in Kwanta constituency here in the Ashanti region. Of course, he belongs to the Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs. And I think Government Assurance, is it? Yes, Government Assurance Committee of Parliament. I must say that in the course of considering this, almost every member of Parliament in that committee, the secretariat of the committee, and even the ministry folks said that, oh, Honorable is the best person to speak about this particular bill. So I know that Cynthia and my colleagues tried very hard to get Honorable. It's not easy to get a member of Parliament with a few days to elections on a Tuesday where we know that there may be a lot of happenings in the Parliament of Ghana. There may be a lot of happenings in the Parliament of Ghana. And so this is something that we must really, truly appreciate. Honorable, we are so grateful that you are able to join us. So with a round of applause, please, let's welcome Honorable George Kwabena Obentechi, Member of Parliament for Manso in Kwanta constituency. Honorable, please, you may want to join us here and let's hear you. Thank you so much. Oh, and a bigger round of applause for him. All right. A big round of applause for Honorable on this. So yeah, Honorable, I've already seen some hands come up, and we are grateful to you for the very candid, indication of what the status of the bill is. The essence of this interaction is just to have a better understanding from the perspective of the committee without any formal structure. So colleagues in the room will ask the necessary questions, and then we'll take it up.
So thank you, MP, Honorable. But my question is, you've been saying the minister has to sponsor and fund. What is the implication of that sponsoring and fund? I thought the Parliament of Ghana is being sponsored by the government of Ghana. And so if you are working in Parliament, what sponsorship are you talking about again? Is it the rule that if I bring something to Parliament, I should fund another activity of Parliament? What is parliamentarians paid for? Thank you.
That because Parliament did not have budget for that session, you should come in. So that's why there should be an agreement to make sure that everything that you are going to do talk of the budget that Parliament may have. Parliament as an institution is also having its own activities that will be presented to the president or to the executives for inclusion into the national budget. And when we are doing that, you know for sure that these are the activities that by the constitution has provided that automatically good.
Give us formal letters to that effect and give us a bill, an invoice, so that we can get funding for that.
Yes, sir. You see, if you listen to our brother, there are two major people who can come to our legislature, either a parliament or a minister coming from the executive. So it should be that you engage either the ministry to take it
said that they are, like we are doing now, to introduce the bill formally at the house, or a private member will present the bill on behalf of the institution, and they will take the front seat that they are presenting the bill. And on that basis, that's where when you go to the committee level and you have to be all these stakeholders, these issues will come out. So what people are interested behind the scene for the department bill, you know exactly that we have to, but there's nobody who can give a budget from public. It has to be from my opinion, because as I told you, no issue of formal communication between you and my committee. But because we believe that the national government should be here, I've opted as my chairman and advised to come over. And that's why, despite the fact that it is a challenging day, I still have to come in so that we all share back. So this is as a matter of day. So when you have this issue, that there's something I said that you want to do, it's very important because you have seen some errors, you have seen certain wrongs in the existing bill, and it should be engaged. So the process you are taking is right. However, it should go through the process as my brother said. Either you engage the ministry for you to have the discussion, or a private member who has to introduce it, come to the committee, and then you know exactly who is the person behind the bill, who will make sure that the bill says is following and then sponsoring it, and at the same time having a source of money to do all this. That's how it goes.
Yes.
So please, once that comes to the ministry and the ministry is sponsoring it, you don't have any problem with the law. If there's any other issue, please engage the right people for the bill.
Okay. So now that the ministry has presented it, and we have interest in it, and the ministry is not agreeing with our interest, we don't have the right to come to Parliament.
No, we say for this feature, no. That's what I'm saying, that at this level at the committee, the sponsors will have to make sure that we have this stakeholder engagement and do all the processes. So that your interest will be taken care of when we're invited for this stakeholder engagement. That's where all the errors in the old bill or old act will be discussed and make the amendment. When we all agree upon it, we introduce it to Parliament as a report.
Okay. So in our case, a bill has been taken there. It has been signed as an LI. Is that right?
Yes.
And then the provisions in it is not helping us, though we called for the bill. Is that right? And we have come back to Parliament to say, when these people were bringing this bill to us, though we called for it, we were not engaged in Parliament as it should be done. And so we are.
Yes.
At the committee, that's why you're going to have all these discussions.
Okay.
So when you have any issue, you will present it when the committee is for the stakeholder engagement. That's why you're going to look at all the errors in the bill and make the same communication and amendment before the bill will go to Parliament as a report.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And maybe let me just provide, in addition to what Honorable has said. Remember that at the beginning of my presentation, I spoke about how challenging legislative advocacy can be, and the fact that sometimes, of no fault of ours, we go through it on a particular route and it hits a snag. So let me use the two examples that are on the table now to clarify a few things. And we are having this conversation as, like I said from the beginning, family members who are having our in-house family meeting in order for us to now have a further engagement now with a full committee later on, Now, the one you are citing is on an LI. An LI, legislative instrument, that's a long for an LI. It's a subsidiary legislation. And so by our parliamentary practice and procedures and constitutional framework, LIs can only be considered by one committee of Parliament. Whether it's an LI on agric, trade, farming, sports, whatever, it's only the subsidiary legislation committee of Parliament that considers LIs. That's the first point. The second point is that LIs are not like bills. For them, once it is laid in Parliament, 21 sitting days, they become law. Unless Parliament, by majority decision, nullifies it. So the advocacy for LIs can be very different from the advocacies for bills. In an LI situation, you are then looking at how to seize the process before the 21 days. Because remember that when an LI goes to Parliament, even Parliament cannot make amendments to it.
right? Even the subsidiary legislation committee cannot make direct amendments to the LI except they quash the entire thing. So it's two processes. When an LI comes, 21 days. If the LI has issues that you disagree with, you must stop it before it gets to Parliament. If you don't, and it gets to Parliament, 21 sitting days, you must then advocate to make MPs by a majority decision nullify the entire thing, which can be very challenging. And so, our own experience at PN Africa shows that subsidiary legislation committees are usually hesitant to do some of these stakeholder engagements. Why? Because they have a limited 21 sitting days window. That's the first point. Number two, when we come and we talk, there is a limit to what changes can be done. So when they look at your issue and they feel that, okay, this issue, it does not affect the entire thing, it affects only a portion of it, the politics of the day may include sidestepping it. And remember that the ministry, the reason why Honorable kept emphasizing the sponsoring ministry is a term of art used in Parliament. Any ministry that presents a paper or a bill to Parliament is the sponsoring ministry. They must work with Parliament to shepherd the process to completion. That shepherding includes collaborating with Parliament to resource the process. We know, even us as a civil society organization sometimes have had to support some of these processes through our projects and what have you. So that is why the LI process can be, I'm not too sure which LI it is when it was laid for us to even do the calculation whether we still have 21 days or we are out of the woods so far as that is concerned. Okay, so it's an old LI situation. So that is the complications of it. But again, one of the learnings from this platform is that one of the things that we do at Parliamentary Network Africa is how we can support associations and groups like these to properly couch a legislative advocacy strategy depending on the circumstances that applies in that particular case. So that is the LI. Now let's come to the bill, which is what Honorable was explaining. And Honorable has been very, in fact, the things Honorable has said on this platform, ordinarily, you will not get a member of Parliament who does not want to be candid from a committee saying it. And for me, it is instructive. Ministry has presented a bill to Parliament. Parliament has seized custody of it. It's been referred to a committee of Parliament. The committee wants to work on it, but for them to work on it, the ministry must be at the table, the current grains and legumes people must be at the table, and all the important stakeholders must be at the table. At the time when the conversation will begin, the minister who championed it resigns to go contest as president. A new minister comes in, and it so appears that the level of enthusiasm on the bill in the past does not appear to be the same level of enthusiasm, and this is maybe my own perspective to it. Now what the committee must then do is to still get the sponsoring ministry to come and to say why we want this change, why we want that change. They must come and tell the committee. In doing so, there must be a convening. Those convening takes resources to do. Parliament and the Committee on Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs have their own budgets, as per every other committee. But these budgets are limited in scope. So there are committees which may probably have budgets for 6 engagements. They now have 20 bills. There are a few committees who will be candid to you as their stakeholder groups and say, look, the issue is a budget issue. How can we work together to ensure that the meeting that must be held with all MPs in the room, right, with a room to discuss this. There are a few that we have done recently as PN Africa and other stakeholder groups when we're advocating for affirmative action, our rights, those human rights and anti-corruption legislation. In many of these instances, it takes civil society and stakeholder groups to come to the committee secretariat and say, look, how can we work together? Sometimes the committees are candid to tell us that, look, the problem is not coming from us. And for this, and it's just going to inform our conversation, the problem, in my opinion, is very much not the issue of the parliamentary committee. The ministry, in my opinion, is not playing ball as much as it needs to. So in devising the advocacy, how are we putting pressure on the committee? Yes, but equally on the ministry to be able to play ball. And I think that should be one of the things that in the group conversations we should discuss a strategy around that. Number 2, how are we leveraging our own
resources and opportunities. Fortunately, like I said, on this particular project, there are some budget lines for engaging with the parliamentary committee. It's certainly not the kind of budget line that can cover 100% the engagement with the parliamentary committee, unless perhaps our friends from MOVE GIZ who are here will go back and go and tell our donors that when they came to the meeting, they realized that so more monies must be added for us to be able to better engage a parliamentary committee. But our efforts will be to push so that there can be some engagement that brings together the ministry and parliamentary committee. But we must think around the strategies in doing so. Bear in mind that we are just less than 2 months to elections and all of these considerations. So it's a real peculiar situation. And I can side with Honorable 100 times on some of the challenges that can be faced with these things. On the bit about whether to present a budget or not to present a budget, there are some parliamentary committees we have worked with who can be very candid and say, look, this is what we need to be able to hold a stakeholder engagement. You may not be able to provide all. Parliament can, in fact, we need 100,000. We in our parliamentary budget, we only have 20,000. And that's why we are unable to call this meeting. What can you do? Then we go and we say, okay, what if we are able to support with some 50,000 in addition to your 20,000? And can we find other stakeholders who would provide 30,000? The point here is that whether you are also part of the organizations that is putting across resources to help the parliamentary committee or not, doesn't mean that our issues will go through hook, line, and sinker. It's not as if we are bribing committee to say that because we are the ones paying for the convening, who is paying the piper must call the tune. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. So it's a catch-22 situation that, okay, if I call the convening, what is the guarantee even that my issues that I want to talk about, you get to listen? But in legislative advocacy, one of the issues that we notice all the time is that you must first be in the room with the people that makes the decision to be able to put across to them your points as forcefully and make your case and to convince them adequately. And that's why legislative advocacy sometimes can be very, very expensive. So I just wanted to put in this to share our own experience and examples as an organization who has been advocating for this over the years and what has been some of the challenges that we have encountered, buttressing the point that has been made by the Honorable Member of Parliament.
Thank you, sir. So in a simple check, I'm trying to make you aware that the bill has come to have is true. The minister who sponsored it, the new minister will have to take steps to engage with the of the bill and show interest and then let us control it. And I think that the challenge is not all that good. So if you yourself will also make any steps that can help the committee to put some kind of fire to get the minister to show up and then get this order on the they will force us to make sure that for this few time left, we can do something to see what happens. So please, as I told you, this is an informal that I'm trying to interact with you about what has happened of the committee setting, putting the subsidiary and other committees who has to get us to the next stage. They came for the meeting, unfortunately, for a couldn't make up because of the recess for a lot of time. That is that all these things need some form of position together with the second meeting for us to look at this issue. So please, I'm sure that especially given to the support of the state, we have done this thing. And then together can meet our discussion or my discussion with you.
I think that I saw one or two other hands, so maybe we'll take them. And then we know that your time also is very limited. Excellent.
I'll give them the time. All of those will have what is happening now. Unless you are doing that, that's what
Honorable, just brief. I will just be brief. With your presentation, you said that's the past minister was trying to push it, but now he's no more, and the new minister is not pushing it. Yes. Very good.
Officers
That's good. Well understood. But the issue is, the minister is also part and parcel of this current parliament. It's part and parcel of this current parliament. Very good. Is it not going to be good if the select committee of agriculture inform him that this is what is on the table, this is where we have gotten to, advise him on that, either than letting the ministry that is the his directors and all those things advise him. It will be appropriate if the member of parliament that are select on the select committee advise him appropriately on this particular issue. It will go forward than the ministry advising him.
And like I'm telling you, there are a lot of challenges all the ministries and other departments, institutions, agencies are facing when it comes to the funding of governmental and government issues. As I'm speaking to you now, our committee was to travel. So this is off for this. You have to be the ways to start our own essay and waiting for reimbursement. I'm not saying that they don't have money, but I'm trying to say that there may be challenges there, but we don't know. So the reason I don't say that it won't come, there may be other challenges that have to well believe. There may be other things that it has to well bear before you get into the committee. It won't say that it won't come. But once it took over, there may be other issues that is considered. So the technical people there, in bringing in with all this, will convince him to come over. We are engaged and we're trying to get the ministry to present. But for one or two reasons, we don't know why, but they will make up. So we are also in the process of trying to get this issue started. So like I'm telling you, the matter of committees to join us for this consideration at the committee level, so that we can try as to how we're going to have all these engagement. I think come on as we want it. But still, I'm saying that it's not too late. It's a matter of you, the advocacy people, who are also stakeholders. You also have to put in some amount of fire, or you also have to come in with so many people. You have to come in with some form of lobbying that will put the minister alert that no, this bill is of essence to the ministry. This bill is the essence of the problem of the agriculture ministry or agriculture sector. We have to make sure that we get it through. The moment we get that conviction, then it means that we are all on the same platform to push that agenda through.
Which means that we have only 2 months to go. Less than 2 months. So which it should be now. That is your advice. Okay, thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, thank you. Honorable Minister, what I would say is, sorry, thanks for the correction. Honorable Member of Parliament, thank you. With my observation with the discussions, I think if that is what is happening even in Parliament, we as a country, it's not helping us. Because if even a bill has to go through these stages and even the interest people should have to push it by themselves, yet it will not go as expected, and we need to find funding and other way of pushing it to come to put it in order. I think the nation or the leaders we have chosen, you are not doing us favor. Pardon me to say. Because we are looking at anything that comes to you or reaches you, we have the hope that at least it should be addressed. But if a bill is being presented to you and it just still have to do certain pushes and other things from our side to make sure it's been put in place, it's like we are not getting the hope we have in you. Excuse me to say. So,
the the minister who had that conviction in no longer any minister coming, he has to set it. And what? Who is going to do briefing about this issue? That will get him to know that there is an urgency. I cannot speak for him, but I'm just question that there are certain things that is only less of. There are one or two things when this is one place. Or maybe I'm not getting it. Yes. So I'm not saying that the music is showing interest. There has been a change. Have you got it? The one who started it has been enthusiastic because he has been briefed. You have been meeting him and have seen the urgency, the need to make sure that this bill gets through. But in the process, the person is out. A new person has come in. You see, handing over and then you being briefed about what is going on, what has passed, and what you have to do next, it takes different dimensions. Who are the people, who are the ministry, the technical people who are to brief him? What preparation, what arrangement did they make that is there to help him push? Maybe, let's say, for example, the minister who was there at that time make all the necessary arrangement that as you move on, my concentration is going to be that all other sectors are going to be put down. We are going to engage all our resources on this bill. That may be his conviction. Another person may come in. I'm not saying that told me that this one. Another person may come in who will have a different mentality. That okay, this bill is very necessary. We have to look at another issue before maybe you go in there. You don't know why the ministry has not come up as at now, but you know that you will come, because when the bill was referred, we as committee have to put our house together and then give a deed. You have a lot of things doing, so not every time you go there you are going to consider this bill. So those issues there, if this comes in, let's say you have other assignment in there for about the past, but say 2 months ago, and this bill has come in. What we are considering now, unless there's something different that we have to stop what we are doing there and go for another one, that will be another. So it doesn't mean that it will be at the ministries alone that will make this delayed. We have to plan our activities in order of those bills or those issues that were referred to us earlier. And we have been engaging a lot of issues, not only this bill. So I'm saying that at this point, we met. But unfortunately, we couldn't settle this issue because of one or two challenges. And we are looking at it that the ministry who is sponsoring this bill should also show up and show interest and make sure that they put in extra effort to get this bill, because we have very short time to rise. So on that note, it's not a matter of anybody sitting somewhere who is pushing this bill not to come. No, because if it's not important, it will have appeared on the other paper. So long as it came on the other paper, it means that this bill has been considered. So you have to present the report. That's how it is. So nobody is in there who is not interested, and you don't have the national as tax. No, that's how it is. It's a process. And my dear friend, to that is procedural. Everything that we do in there in Parliament has to follow certain processes. That's how it is.
Honourable Member, thank you. While I'm just urging this, like anything that comes to or maybe happens to reach the Parliament should be considered very serious.
Yes, very serious.
Parliament is the biggest house in our country. We rely on you for a lot of things. If a bill has to come and it takes a lot of challenges.
Most of the time, we don't sit in Parliament. Some of this, we don't sit in our offices. We move outside to sit there and have our peace. About 3 or 4 days, we'll be outside somewhere discussing some of these issues. It's not easy. We don't take things for granted. The moment the report comes to us, at times you have to move outside Parliament, go and stay somewhere for about 3 days or so, and consider all this. You have peace of mind. We go and stay and do this work. And you can take a sector alone. Look at the cocoa sector, what's happening in there. Every minister at that ministry is in conclusion that if you look at our president when we're talking about introducing some new taxes and all those, it's not for just for the sake of somebody interested in just hammering on people. It is the fact that if you look at the moment of the job in there, you have to have more funds or more servants, more laborers to go to the field. Where are they coming from? And that's why at a certain point in time, we complain that we are taking too much loans. Today, as we are speaking, government has brought this in an agreement where we are trying to negotiate for and then pass a bill for government to go in for new loans. Why is it so? It means that government expenditure needs to be funded. These are some of the things. If it doesn't happen that way, there are a lot of issues that the government cannot carry through before the end of the year, because our taxes are down. And that's why in the bill we normally say that when you are doing all these things, you look at sponsorship, you look at the funding. It's very crucial, because to get all these things done, that's why government will prepare a budget every year to show that next year we have this at heart. You want to construct so many roads, you want to do this and that. Where are the money coming from? You have to budget for that. When we don't have enough, the government will say that let's go and borrow. So these are sort of things. It's like no thing. Like in our own life, you have 2, 3, 4 children going to school next year. You ask yourself, already when the students my children were not going to school, I was spending 10,000 cedis. Today that they are going to school, I may need to spend more. Are you possible for me to go and then enlarge my business, to expand my business, to bring in more? Or do I have to solicit support from any other person? You plan all these things. So that's how it goes. So we're not saying that Parliament is checking instability. No, we're not checking it. But because we see that these are the issues at stake, Parliament, our committee, we have been given this amount of money for your work. And you look at your engagement with people, how much you have to settle them, what you have to do with this, you put all together, it tells you that you also have a shortfall. How do you meet the shortfall? You settle that and see to it that when somebody is coming in with such a bill, what is the person going to do to meet it halfway to make sure that they're able to get the job done? It's not that you are trying to say that you are checking our responsibility. And all I'm trying to tell you that I have experienced some of these things on the floor. I've experienced these things because of my background as a public sector financial and accounting expert, and I'm also in taxation. So you can see clearly why certain times you see that government businesses are left there. For example, now in my constituency, I'm trying to put up 1 or 2 things there. I was told, plain words, give us the money. She's coming in for my 1 year's with morning. But meanwhile, when I look at it, my predecessors, they come and put up some structure. They couldn't finish it. They become something like leftover. Why should be left there? Somebody should be back, because the time of the person ceases with whatever he got in there. There will not be any provision for me to do that. So when Parliament rises, this 8th Parliament, when it's over, whatever they started and couldn't finish is not compulsory for me to come and do, unless you make provision in the next budget. So if government is going to put up this road, and then the budget that they made is say 10,000, they couldn't complete that road with the 10,000. In the next Parliament or the next government is not compelled to complete it unless they bring it back into the budget that let's make budgetary provision for it. If there's no budgetary provision for it, you can't do that job. So that's how some of these things work. So at times you have to put yourself tightly to make sure that you are able to do what you have to do. So in that case, like I'm giving you an example. I was my district yesterday to meet the chief executive, because the funding that has to come in is not coming as it should be. The moment I get any small fund, I put it into the job that I'm doing, so that I can complete in good time and make sure that whatever allocation is made to me from my common fund, I can meet it certainly, so that it doesn't become something like a this hot elephant when I'm not there. I want to make sure. So that's how it goes. So it depends on everybody and his own enthusiasm and his own mentality and how he wants what he wants to achieve. So government all the time is not having all that's needed. You have something, you have to plan very well to go about it. Parliamentary committees will have something, you have to plan well to know how about you can go about their work. So that at the end of the day, you are able to satisfy all the stakeholders halfway. That's how it is.
And I've seen that there are 2 hands that want to also. So let me just say this quickly. At this point, we will be appreciative if the questions to the Honorable Member of Parliament is limited to areas where you want clarification so far as their committee is concerned.
Yes.
We've seen that the bigger work after this is when we break into how we are strategizing as stakeholders to help fast track the process or whatever, right? And I think we should leave that to our own internal and have enough time for our own internal conversation. So I'd appreciate if the conversation now is limited to maybe specific areas where we need clarity from the committee's perspective, right? So that it will inform our other discussions going forward. So let's take you and then we'll finish with that. Well, Honorable, thank you so much. I think you've thrown light on some things that I really didn't understand, and also how certain things are happening in the country, and sometimes we don't have clear understanding why this government is doing that or that government is doing that. You made mention that within 4 weeks, if they can get the right processes, assuming all things being equal, lobbying going through, then the bill can be taken, it can be moved forward. But my question is, when you were presenting about the stage 9 where there is no timeline, that is also a question as to when you do all that you are doing, your committee passes, moves the bill to parliament, it gets to stage 9 again. The person there who is supposed to transmit the bill also delays. Meanwhile, this parliament is about to end. And it doesn't go through. What happens? The next parliament that comes, the whole bill must be started again, or what?
Okay. No, but just so that we don't even belabor that point. I mean, the stage 9 processes is not part of the 3 weeks that the honorable member spoke about. 1 to 8 is where the interest is now, from up to 3rd reading, which must happen within the next 3 weeks. Once it has been completed and parliament is even risen for the elections and all of that, the rest of the parliamentary process and the transmitting and the president's accent can still go on up to January 7th.
Exactly.
So that place is not a challenge. It's not our main challenge. Our main challenge now is to get how do we ensure.
You said up to January 7th.
Yes.
So what if up to January 7th it is not?
No, if parliament has a bill that it has passed and the accent does not happen because maybe the president's tenure elapsed, there will be a president after January 7th who also has the responsibility to accent.
Okay.
Our most important interest now is the parliamentary component.
Yes, to go to
the accenting bit is not the challenge at all.
Because it's clear that the delay might be due to some funding support. But
we'll discuss those. We'll discuss the strategies in-house and see what we can do also as a way.
I think members, let's concentrate on what we have come here for, because to me it is even a blessing that this thing has not gone through, because what I see here is chaff. Yes, because when government was the minister was supposed to present the memo, the cabinet memo, he called us and we discussed this thing, but that is not what we discussed. That is a challenge. And so that's why I'm calling it, excuse me to use the word, chaff. Because what we agreed that he was taking there is not this one. And so we even thank God that it has not, you have not been able to work on it. Because then you would have worked on it and then we come back again asking you. But again, my challenge again is that these committees that needs to work on these bills and these legislative something, are they not mandated by law to consult civil society organizations before they cross? Because sometimes the challenge is that when you do those things, you don't come back to civil society organizations to say, the minister has brought this one. What do you say? Do you agree with it? If some of those, the LI was talking about, if it has, we were called upon at that stage, we would have corrected this thing. So please, I don't know whether you think about cost or timing. It is better we take our time and call on the appropriate people, because maybe you might not have the money, but we have people that might give us the money to fund whichever activity. If you are prepared to give us the
don't limit the discussion to money. Look, excuse me, say, when you present a bill, it's not what you think is good for the country that will carry the day. Okay. There may be other issues that we don't know. Let's say, for example, there was a time that we have the LI having the to prospect in the forest reserves. Today, there's a call that you have to expunge it. So at the time that you do all this, somebody may say that, oh, because of the need for gold and more money, then today they're realizing that no. Maybe at that time somebody raised that no by couldn't carry through, but today it has to carry through. And the point is that, as I'm saying, when you present anything, they have to take into consideration so many things and come out with something that is good for the country, not only what is good for the association. That's how it is. So it's not a matter of, that's why we are saying that When it comes to committee, we invite stakeholders. You come there, you argue, you debate. When your point comes the day, so be it. If your point is not coming to it, it means that other people's interest superseded yours. So it's an open discussion. Okay. So when it comes to your time that you are going to do all this stakeholder engagement, you'll be invited. Okay. Because that is second there. Okay. So when you come in there, whatever is on the table, you make your inputs. Okay. So and that's why we say that you validate all inputs you make. Not that we put in there, like, you validate and see its pros and cons. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's not nobody's interest, but the interest of the state and the consequences, the aim, the limitation, what it has to be, what you have to sort of take out is what you're going to do, you have to do.
So thank you very much, because then now that we are in the pipeline now, we are also going to monitor that.
Well, you have to be there. Yes, and bring your interest and then discuss it.
Monitor for now, because one has already beaten us. We don't want the second one to come.
Right.
Is that right? Again, this part of your activity, I think that at any point in time, when civil society comes to you, you should at least give a listening ear. I have sent petition to government, not even a response. Not even a response. So please, I appreciate the fact. No, I appreciate your challenges and your these things there. But this is what we are telling you. Is that right? That I think the House, the Parliament is to us. That is our compound, because this is our representations of the people.
Yes.
So if something had gone there, and we have called for a bill, immediately the bill was landed, we started shouting. What went in there? Because if
shouting like,
well, why is it that the same people that you have who called for the bill are now shouting when your bill, the bill that they have called for, has landed? So it means that what went in there wasn't done well.
I'm sure Honorable will take note of that. We'll take Mr. Bello. He also has a party message.
I'm not putting you on the spot,
yes.
So that
after
my advice is that when you put anything out there, make follow-ups, because in governance, the letter must go. Not you alone. Letter is going in there. Make follow-up. Engage the leadership of your committee. They will all give you hearing. There's no way when you say that you want to meet any chairman or leader of any committee, the person will say no. When you make that agreement that you want to meet, they will by all means call you for attention. Please, that's how it is. So make follow-ups and engage them one-on-one. They will listen to you. Then let the people just go in there and then sit aside. Follow up. You get hearing.
Right. So finally from Mr. Bello, and then Honorable will give us his parting words, and then we can close this first session so that we can go into our own internal conversations about this matter.
Yes, Honorable, this is a very short one, and it's a special request.
Okay.
It's a privilege to have you here as a member of that committee that we are talking about, and you have known our concerns and challenges.
Yeah.
And if you appreciate them, can we assume your assistance to be some kind of an advocate for us as a short route to get our concerns into this bill? Or is it legislative instrument or bill? A bill.
Bill.
So can you assure us you will be of help to us if you understood what discussions you had with you today and you really appreciate our concerns?
Can we work with you as a champion?
Like I told you, I'm somebody who has dealt with public sector issues, public sector accounting, and I will tell you something. Why I have so much interest when it comes to public issues. The country Ghana is Ghana because you and I decided to come together as a nation before we get Ghana. That's how we get a state. State is you as an individual, you are a state to yourself. Why? I have this in my book, that the first state was made of Adam. And I let you go and read Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 to 15. When God created Adam and told Adam that, I have created a state, a garden of Eden. That is the state. Go and take it. Or say, work it, take care. You look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 15. Work it, take care. I have given you this state, Adam. Go and also, the first president, the first government on this earth. On that note, every individual here is a state to himself or herself. But as society was growing, those who are stronger than one will just in trouble. So decided that no, to live as human beings, let's come together, make laws, have a chief, a leader to work the law and make sure that our welfare and our security is assured. That's all I have state. Your welfare and your security is why we have a state. So they came together and make laws and appointed a chief. So when we go to every village, at the instance of the chief, we come together. Why? We are come to make a new law. So we beat the Congo. I want to remember today we have to make agreement that every week we have to go to our riverside and get a place. And the people will say, yes, we agree, it becomes the law. So when you go against the law, then you have to go before the king and then you are punished. Because some people will be weak. They will not control those who are strong to destroy the place. So when we make the law, we are protecting our interests and our security, welfare. That is it. So upon this, I used to say that Parliament is between the people. Because you cannot all go to Parliament, that's why we have representatives. To listen to and discuss the issue that we are talking about, we have to pass the bill to become law because we are the people. It's the people who make law for the executive to use. So when the bill comes to me, because of what I'm telling you, I take key interest in the process. So you see me always on the floor of Parliament. And the seniors there used to say, George, we are always present, but we are discussing a contribution. That's what I ask because of where I'm coming from. Because we want the people to make sure we make laws for the executives for you to govern our welfare and our security. Everybody should take it serious. So when we are talking about the state and those things, it's because of your welfare and your security. That's why we have come together as one people, and we have government having the laws. So when we pass the law for the government, and there's anything mischievous, you have to go to the court for interpretation. That's why we say three separate. The court and the executives are embedded in our chiefs. However, the court was set as a panel where the chief calls some people and then discuss what is at stake. So we see that that separation of powers have been there. So when we make like this, to me, let us all lean towards the fact that it's for our welfare and our security. That's why we have the state. And that's why the king will say, because we are going to do this, how do we finance it? We are going to build a school, public interest, our children. They say, let us have control. Let's leave it ourselves so that we can do these things. So when we leave it's not for the chief. Nothing is for the chief. The chief is sitting in there as somebody, as an agent to work for the people. On that note, when you contribute anything, the chief has to take good care of it. If you misuse it, that's why you can also take the chief and sue the person. So these are how we make sure that governance system in our environment works to ensure our security and our welfare. So we contribute towards a common fund to fund all that they're doing. Either than that, no public interest can be satisfied. It's not the chief who is going to bring his money to do that. It's not the president. That's why always when you contribute and there's any abuse or the funds of the state, in some places you don't pay taxes, you don't take care, you pay for life. That's what the state is about. So on that news, I will tell you that as I go with this background and with this conviction, I almost talk to my chairman because I was just there that he called me that your call came in before he confirmed that yes, he recommended that I should come here. And once he has recommended this, I called him yesterday before coming. That chairman, what is at stake? Because I haven't got any communication about what they're going to do. So he gave me the necessary guidance that yes, it's true. But you go and what you have gone to on the level of this bill, explain to them. That's why I'm here. So I'm also going to give you a report that this what I went in there, I saw, chairman, what are we going to do with the few days left? So you yourself, as I told you, is to recover this background. I'm telling you that you too have to do what? Put in some effort and lobby, some effort and have discussions with the chairman. Once you have his address, book an appointment with him within the shortest possible time. Meet him. And if you call me, I will join and discuss this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, it's almost 11 and our time for this session is up. So, Honorable, I think that with the reporting you need to get back to Chairman. In addition to that, I think that the summary of this session is that, number one, there are a group of stakeholders who are equally interested in the bill. And you have come to meet us and you've seen the enthusiasm. Number two, we are interested in how we can work with your committee, to be able to get the outcome
that we leave this meeting with, push through your committee, as quickly as possible. And number three, by the close of today's meeting, we probably will come up with an outcome paper of today's engagement, and then we can engage. So we are looking forward to a committee that will be more than happy to engage us as quickly as possible within these next couple of days, and we'll be most grateful about that. We certainly would. We would. Yes. 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 Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. We certainly would. Thank you so very, very much. Please, a very big round of applause too. I know my brother wanted to add up something, but the time is not allowing us. We'll take that during the next session. And before Honorable goes, we are going to take a quick coffee break and group photo time so that we can come back. So can we set up for a group photo? Can we set up for a group photo quickly? We will go for our coffee break, 15 minutes maximum, and then we can come back to now delve into the group conversations. we can be back by 20 past 11. 20 past 11. Thank you.